do roll call by clicking in. Roll call, commissioners.
Madam Chairwoman, Lauren White advised that she would not be present this evening. If anybody wanted to make a motion.
Motion to excuse.
Second.
Let's have a vote on that. Now, Madam Manager, do we need, I left my phone in the car. Do we need to, I'm sorry, my phone was ringing. Do we need to use our hand vote because we have a person absent?
You may continue with your voting system, even with the absence.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We'll now stand for invocation, led by Commissioner Mark C. Smith.
Let us pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you've given us. Thank you for your love and mercy and grace. Lord, we ask that you give us guidance and direction, Lord, as we make decisions that are best for the citizens of this county. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. We will now have a pledge of allegiance. Please remain standing. We will now have the pledge of allegiance by Hannah Mace Field of Farnborough Central High School. Are you here? Thank you very much. You would like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening. I'm Hannah Mansfield, a senior at Farmville Central High School. I'm currently the president of our FFA chapter. Thank you for having me this evening. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be
Please be
seated.
seated.
Thank you and have a good evening.
And thank you. If you would like to leave, since this is a school night, you may feel free to do so. We will now have the approval of the agenda.
Move for approval.
Second.
You have a revised agenda in front of you. Can I assume that you're approving the revised agenda that's in front of you?
Yes.
The motion stands approved. Public address to the board.
Madam Chairwoman, you have 3 people signed up to speak. I've spoken to 2 earlier who intend to speak at the public hearing for Jeff and Diane Roberts. So if we'll hold those in abeyance for now, you would have 1 remaining, Jonathan Landon.
Mr. Landon, please approach the podium, and we'll have a message from our attorney.
Yes, Pitt County welcomes all comments on matters of public concern. Each person will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. A total of 30 minutes is set aside for public addresses to the board. Please state your name and address prior to speaking.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Landon. I live at 4959 Toddy Road, Farmville. I am the chief of the Fountain Rural Fire Association, or the Fountain Fire Department. As y'all know, I sent a letter to the board in December. It's come to my understanding that the ARPA funds had already been spoken for when my letter was sent. I wanted to thank y'all for consideration, and I also would like to tell y'all that the training facility that was requested in that letter, I believe is something that's going to be needed in the near future in Pitt County. Maybe not one for Fountain, but one for the entire county. And I would like to sit down with y'all one day when I have a little more time and discuss the benefits of this training facility and how it would benefit the taxpayers, the businesses, and how it would save them money on their insurance. I have brought my card, so y'all have my contact information. I'll be glad to leave with y'all. I'd like to set up a meeting at a later time to meet with all the commissioners. And again, thank y'all for consideration for the ARPA funds that we have requested. Is there any questions for any of the board members for me concerning the letter that was sent? And again, I apologize for the misunderstanding or miscommunication about being added to the agenda.
Since you're asking to meet with us, we would take it under advisement. We usually don't make
Okay.
comments at this time. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Award ceremony.
Yes, if we could go down front while.
Did I miss anybody, though?
No, you did not.
Okay, thank you.
If Katrina Vines would come forward, please. All right, Commissioners, Madam Chairwoman, and everyone present, this is one of the favorite things I get to do each month. We recognize our Employee of the Month. And this month, it is with pleasure that I recognize Katrina Vines. Katrina is employed with the Human Resources Department. She was selected for her strong work ethic, her extensive knowledge of human resources, and her willingness to help others. The nominator said there are many instances where she has gone above and beyond to make sure county employee needs are met. I'm thankful for the opportunity to work with her and gain knowledge from her as a fellow colleague, said her nominator. Katrina has been with Pitt County for 25 years. She began in 1997 as an office assistant 4 with mental health. In 2005, she joined Human Resources as a clerk 5, then was promoted to administrative assistant 1 in Human Resources. And in 2016, she was promoted to her current position as a Human Resources analyst. So Katrina, thank you for continuing to make us proud for serving your internal and external customers. And for that, we have a certificate of recognition for you, which reads, Employee of the Month, February 2023, presented to Katrina Vines, Human Resources, in recognition of your dedication and exemplary service to Pitt County government and the citizens we serve, along with a $100 check to thank you. Madam Chair, if you would present that.
We are honored to have the employees continue that and remain with us. Thank you so much for your diligence.
Thank you, and if we can get a picture? Thank you.
Public hearings. Item number 8, road name changes. Mr. Eli Johnson.
Good evening, Board. I'm Eli Johnson, going to present the road name changes for NC 121 and 258 business in the Farmville area. So NC DOT has rerouted 121 and removed 258 business designation in the Farmville area. And in turn, road name changes are needed to avoid confusion for 911. Here's a map just to give you an idea of this section that we're talking about today. Red is the May Boulevard that we're recommending changing from 258 business, and then the blue is the 121 route. We're recommending the following: continue the name of May Boulevard from Farmville town limits to the I-587 interchange, and continue the name of West Wilson from the Farmville town limits to the Pitt County and Greene County boundary. There's about 24 addresses that will be changed as a result of these road name changes. And so after the holding the public hearing, we're just asking you to approve those 2 recommendations. So continue the name of May Boulevard and continue the name of West Wilson Street.
I think with public hearing, we have to open the floor to see if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor or against.
Madam Chairwoman, no one has signed up to speak.
Thank you. We will close the public hearing.
Motion approved.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Jeffrey and Diane Roberts, item number 8, part 2. Mr. Rose.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. We do have one rezoning request for your consideration tonight. First up, though, I just want to ensure that the board is moving forward. There had been a request for continuance. Madam Chairwoman, should we proceed on with the presentation at this point?
If we're going to continue, what's the pleasure of the board?
Continue.
We will continue.
Okay. Very good. Tonight,
So I'm sorry if I just may stop you for clarification. You mean continue with his presentation? Should the board the board should first determine whether or not to continue with the hearing and the matter tonight, and then once you do that, then I believe you can proceed.
Yes.
With the hearing. So the board, right, the applicant has made a request to continue this hearing to a later date, and the board must decide on that first.
So we're ready to vote then.
You need to make a motion to continue the hearing or to hear it tonight.
Motion to deny the request.
Motion to deny the request to hear it tonight.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Motion by Mr. Benji Holloman, second by Commissioner Tom Colson. Let's vote.
Ann had discussion.
Any discussion? Ann has discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Huggins?
You said that the participants asked to continue it to another date, is that
Yes, the applicant did.
the applicant?
In the audience are folks who have signed up in the public hearing, but the applicant, who is also present, has requested to continue to a future meeting.
Oh, okay.
All of those who agree with continuing, we vote either by yes or no.
To proceed.
To proceed.
To proceed tonight.
Yes.
So we'll.
You deny, so the motion is to deny the applicant's request to continue it and hear it tonight. If you are in favor of denying the applicant's request to hear it and hear the public hearing this evening, then you vote yes.
Can we ask why
Yes, if James.
why she
it was in the
requested?
package tonight. The applicant had requested it because of medical issues, but Mr. Roberts is able to be with us tonight, and I believe he's in the audience and is willing to proceed on if you so desire to.
Okay, okay.
So voting yes means you will hear it this evening. Voting no means it will continue to a future meeting.
Commissioner Huggins?
So you will hear it this evening. Now, Madam Chair, I think you can proceed with the hearing.
All right. Mr. Rose?
We do have the request from Jeffrey and Diane Roberts to rezone about a third of an acre. This is located on NC 30, west of its intersection with Big Pen Road. This is right in the Whitehurst Station community. It is a rezoning request from rural agricultural to rural agricultural conditional district for one express purpose, and that is for a group care facility, and we'll get into those details. So again, just to orient you a bit as to where this property is located, the blue shaded area at the top of the map is the ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction of Bethel. Coming out on NC 30 from there, about halfway down towards Stokes, is the Whitehurst Station community. The site here is just to the west of the railroad track there at a existing residential dwelling that I'll show you a few pictures in just a minute about. So this is the area. This is our comprehensive land use plan area that shows that this particular area is all rural residential agricultural, very rural area in that vicinity of the county. A few scattered uses here. Those in gold are residential dwellings. There is one commercial site there in close proximity to the site that's being considered for the rezoning. As far as the land use plan, as I've mentioned, it's rural residential agricultural, and it is included for low-density residential, pretty much what you have out in that area already. Single-family, site-built homes, manufactured homes, agriculture, and the like. And then there are some allowances for particular other types of uses, provided locational criteria are met. This is on a major roadway, NC 30. It does have some other adjacent properties that are being used for agricultural purposes. And in this area of the county, is without saying almost, it's without any access to sanitary sewer. So these types of uses are all provided wastewater disposal through septic tanks. Again, very rural area, not surprisingly, our zoning ordinance shows just that. The entire area along NC 30 in that vicinity is rural agricultural. And that's primarily, as far as this particular category is concerned in your zoning ordinance, primarily intended to accommodate very low-density residential uses with a few other types of uses allowed. So the use tonight that's being requested, again, conditional district. Those of you that have been on the board for a while might remember this type of use historically had been handled through a special use permit. This is now through conditional district rezoning, does not require quasi-judicial procedures. So you'll handle it just like a regular rezoning process. So this is for a group care facility, and in our zoning ordinance, just to orient you as to what that one use is, what those provisions are that are set up in our ordinance. There are specific requirements that, again, these types of uses, state legislation allows you to have separation between these types of uses. So there is a minimum half-mile setback or distance separation between these. That is met because there is not another type use like this in this vicinity. This facility also would allow up to 30 people. And this is the generic version of a group facility. You'll see some of the conditions that we applied to this particular home and the petitioner has agreed to in just a minute. Also, off-street parking is required, and a buffer yard is required. Some landscaping is required on that site. The planning staff has considered this to be consistent with the land use plan and is reasonable and in the public's best interest. However, the planning board reviewed this at its last month's meeting and recommended in denial. They did agree that this particular use was consistent with the land use plan. However, it did, at the same time, the board did agree that it was not appropriate in this area of the county. From the staff's perspective, again, we agree that it is consistent, and we've got language in here for your motion. We also, from the staff's perspective, are recommending for approval. And particularly, we feel like this use does provide specific services for folks in our community and could be considered in this area of the county. Those additional conditions that we've talked about with the petitioner certainly have to obtain a license from the state. The facility shall not have any more than 4 clients at any given time. Again, the generic definition says up to 30. He's agreed to go with only 4 clients. No zoning compliance permit will be obtained until specific requirements are met for parking and screening. Also, emergency management requirements for fire protection have to be met, and any of those requirements through inspections and environmental health also have to be met before the permit is issued. And with that, Madam Chair, we're ready for the public hearing.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here who would like to speak, Ms. Manager?
Yes, you have 15 people signed up to speak on this matter. And we can start at the top, and I'll just suggest that if you have something to say that is similar to the person before, you're welcome to just indicate your agreement and then add what's new. And if the attorney would read the statement for public hearings.
Yes, Pitt County welcomes all comments on this proposed rezoning. Each person will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address prior to speaking.
And the first person signed up is Ken Manning.
Ken Manning.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Ken Manning. I live at 6116 NC 30, Bethel. I'm the house next to this house that we're talking about today. And Mr. Rose was talking about how it's approved generically for 30 people. I don't think 30 people could fit in that yard. But anyway, I want to talk about why I'm against this. All right, number one, it is a long ways away from the police protection, fire protection, any stores or anything. He made a good point about being rural. It's surrounded by farmland that I own, as a matter of fact. Anyway, there's not anywhere for these people to go. And that's a big concern of mine because if I understand it right, this home is for 14 to 17-year-old kids that are troubled. And I understand that, but I think they need to be in a mental facility that can offer them qualified health care, mental care with doctors and qualified people. But, and that's just my opinion. But anyway, the house is just too far away from any business or anything. So, the biggest question I got is where are they gonna go? They can't stay in the house all day long. And the internet service out there, let me tell y'all something, I lived out there 71 years. It's terrible. You can't hardly talk on the phones out there. So how are they gonna get on the internet and talk to somebody, And Mr. Roberts said that he was gonna carry them to ball games and stuff. You can't go to ball games every day, okay? And the other thing that really concerned me, I did a little background check on Mr. Roberts' facility. He's got one in Williamson, North Carolina there. And last year, the police department went to that house 22 different times. So, does Pitt County really have the resources to send them out there that many times? We're talking about kids that are troubled here. One of them was a house that had a barn burned up behind it. And I got hay barns, I got cows. I'm just an old poor dumb farmer that lives out there in the country. I really don't want to be bothered. But I especially worry about my people in my community. My mother, she's 93. What are you going to do at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody beating up there on her door? Who am I going to call? Look, we had an incident at the church out there not too long ago. It took the rescue squad 30 minutes to get there, and they're at North Pitt. So, my point is, how are they going to respond? They just can't get there in time, what I'm saying, if there's a problem out there. So I understand the need for mental health and a group home, but I don't think that this is the place for it. It's too far away. It needs to be in town. It needs to be closer to communities where they can have interaction with other people, and the police department, fire department, and everybody else can get to them, and they can go down there to the store and get drinks or do something and have other interaction. And I did a little research on this thing. Statistics say 40% of these kids that go to these group homes go back and do the same thing over again. In other words, they're like people that go to prison. They're repeat different offenders. And I know that's my time. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person signed up is Alex Trull.
Mr. Crow.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Alex Trull, live at 5710 NC 30. I won't bore you with any of the boring facts about how I moved my family out of Rocky Mount. Anybody here hears about Rocky Mount, you know exactly why we moved. It's hard to get along there, it really is. We were blessed to end up over here at the Manning Farm. We're just blessed to be here. I'm going to tell you a couple things that do worry me. Right now, the first time in my life, in my children's lives, I can let them outside in my backyard while I'm cooking dinner, no problems. Nobody's near us but family-owned property. Nobody's near us to bother us. I don't want to lose that. I don't want my kids to lose that. They've never had it. This is the first place we've been able to live at where it's not people yelling outside, arguing, not getting along. It's the first place we've been able to walk outside at nighttime and be able to see the stars. And don't have to worry about who's doing drugs next door, or who's yelling next door, or who's getting arrested next door. First time we've had that. If this gets approved, that will change. I won't bore you with the fact that I've got 3 criminal justice degrees. I have all the statistics you want to hear that you already know about because you're all smart people. I won't bore you with all that, but you know how the deals go. These kids are troubled. They need physical, medical assistance. They need professional assistance. I have cousins who are in these homes who stay in the system. They can't get help. They're unsupervised. They don't have enough supervision. There's just too much going on. These homes are needed for these children in areas, like Mr. Can said, in areas where you can access things. These kids can't even do homework online. All homework's done online now. It ain't like it used to be with the good old textbooks. It's all done online. We don't have online. That's one thing I loved about the house that I bought. My kids don't get online. They're not allowed online, but they couldn't if they wanted to. All these things are positives for us. Everybody around us is family oriented. They all go to church together. We're able to raise our kids the way we think it's right to raise them nowadays with all the crazy stuff that goes on, and we just don't want to add to it. We don't want to justify that to my children. Well, who's that man walking by the yard? Why is he looking in the yard? Why is he in the yard? You know, everybody's got rights to their own opinions. These are my own opinions, but children's safety, especially in this day and time, come first. These kids need help they will not receive out here in this rural area. There's just not enough resources. The deputy over in our area met us the week we moved in and told us, if you need something, call him. Well, if you call him, I hope you don't need him within 30 minutes because he's not there. They just can't. They don't have enough resources. They can't justify it. I want everybody to get help. These kids deserve the help. I've seen it firsthand. I've volunteered at these places. I know what they need. They need places to go, and I get that, and we need that. But they need it in town. They need it in places where right down the street they can go get a job. They can give back to society. They can help themselves get better by keeping themselves busy with work, some kind of help, volunteer programs. We don't have any of that. All we have is us. That's all we've got. Thank y'all.
Marty Flynn?
Those, the rest of you are coming up. If someone has said something that you agree with, then you point to that and then offer your difference, if there is a difference.
Hey there, I'm Marty Flynn. I live at 5959 NC Highway 30, Bethel. And I've lived in this area all my life. My house is located approximately 140 yards from the proposed group home. I'm concerned about the safety of my family, my neighbors, my property, and clients within the group home. It is my understanding that Mr. Roberts is the CEO of Amani Group Home in Williamston and is listed as the manager of the Palace of Restoration Group Home in Ayden. Both group homes have had deficiencies, and according to the North Carolina Division of Health Service Regulations, and group homes have to come up with a correction to each deficiency. The proposed group home will house 4 male adolescent residents from the Division of Social Services and/or the Department of Juvenile Justice. They have a wide variety of emotional, mental, and physical issues. Some of these include bipolar, disruptive mood disorder, ADHD, conduct disorder, PTSD, intellectual disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, major depressive disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, history of self-harm, elopements, criminal behaviors, fire settings, stealing, and a history of sexual assault on a female nurse at a previous placement. Deficiencies in these group homes include medications administered without a physician's order, psychotropic drug reviews not completed by a pharmacist or physician. The medication record was inaccurate. Patients were either low on medication or out of their medication. It is imperative that clients with mental disorders consistently and accurately take their prescribed medication. This is detrimental to the safety of clients and homeowners. If a mental crisis occurs, clients will need immediate access to health care providers. The nearest hospital is 20 minutes away, and it takes a good while for EMS to arrive. The group homes had multiple elopements, stealing of sharp tools from a neighbor, stealing of an Apple Card, breaking in a car, property destruction, threatening to throw bricks. Local police department received 22 calls for assistance. The staff were sleeping when they were supposed to be monitoring the clients. There were times they didn't even know they were missing until law enforcement brought them back. There is not a speedy response for law enforcement where this home is located. This is a huge liability and safety issue for clients, local families with children, and elderly in surrounding homes. They need to have access to immediate law enforcement. Due to the discrepancies presented, the mental and behavioral issues of the clients, and lack of safety for everyone, please vote no to rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. Kayla Flynn?
Hello, everybody. I'm Kayla Flynn. I live at 5959 NC Highway 30, Bethel, North Carolina. I live approximately 140 yards from the proposed rezoning for the group home. I've lived here on my family farm my entire life. My dream is to build a house beside my parents. The thought of making the residence across the road into a male adolescent group home makes me scared and a little bit sick. What I want to know is, how does this seem safe? The residents in these homes ended up there some way or another. And this is such a rural area. There's no room to thrive and no civilization near. That's a risk you do take when you live in the area I do. You're a solid 20 to 25 minutes away from anything other than a Dollar General. We do not have city police access, and EMS services are quite a ways away. I work in Rocky Mount, and I leave every morning by about 6 a.m. It's pitch black dark at that time, and I'm the only one awake. The thought of having a group home across the road where the residents have escaped in the past scares me. Because where is the first place they'll go when they escape? And that's the house next door, which is my house. My dream to build and live beside my parents feels like it's being snatched away from me. Who can build a house and dream of having babies within walking distance to their parents' house, but also a male adolescent group home? There are grandmas and grandpas that babysit their grandchildren near this residence all around. This will certainly place their safety in jeopardy as well, and not allow them to play outside with these spring temps coming up. You might wonder why I didn't just purchase the sale of the home. I can promise you, if I would have known the conflict this would have become, I sure would have tried. The house was listed for $165,000, and it sold for $128,800. I would have certainly possessed an interest then. Please do not allow this rezoning to occur. Thank you.
Danny Flynn?
Good evening. I'm Danny Flynn. I live at 5959 NC 30, which is about 40 yards from the requested home to be rezoned. This home is surrounded by my wife's family land, which means that if there are hopes of purchasing more land for this facility, that's not going to happen. I love kids and have a big heart for kids that need help, but this is not the place. We know that kids need places like this to get the help they need, but it has to be closer to EMS and police. We're in a very rural area, which means the response time of police and EMS could take a while when needed. Mr. R.J. Hemby on the Pitt County Planning Board at the Planning Board meeting in January stated that he had worked at a group home before. He said that there was a police station across the street from the home, and sometimes that still wasn't close enough to get there in time. The home has very little land for kids to get out and exercise. Mr. Roberts stated at the Planning Board meeting that they take them to ball games, movies, and other activities, which is great, but that's 1 or 2 times a week, I'm sure. So what about the other time that they are there? The yard floods really bad in the rear when it rains, and is very close to a very busy highway. The home has no community water because we don't have any out our way. We've been told it's coming for the last 28 years, but still hasn't. Also, the Wi-Fi out our way is very slow. My daughter has always said that she is going to build beside us one day, but if this were to pass, that would change her decision. We are concerned with safety from these troubled teens, and if they could possibly sneak away, could cause all of us a lot of trouble. Between theft and possible fire settings, this could be trouble. Alpine Gas Company is 250 yards away from the home, which could be a catastrophe if a fire was set. Again, there just has to be a better place for these kids to be placed. I have to ask, would any of you like this to happen in front of your home? Please don't allow this to happen. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is the applicant, Jeff Roberts.
Is Mr. Roberts here?
I'd like to say good afternoon to the board. I appreciate this opportunity to come. And I come as an advocate for children. What I do is my calling. A teacher teach because that's her calling. A preacher preach because he's called of God to preach. Mine is kids. I love kids. Any kids. Somebody has to stand in the gap for our kids. We say troubled kids. Most of the kids that I've had, the trouble came at their birth. They weren't born bad, as someone said. I don't call kids bad. There's a reason why. So we advocate at Amani. I've been doing this for 15 years. Why did I do it? Because that's my calling. We present our homes and to show love, because many of our kids have never had love in their homes. I have one of the kids that was in my home here today, and I want him to speak. He's gonna tell why he was at Amani and how God changed his life while he was there. My wife and I, we stand in the gap. I'm in Pitt County because Trillium asked me to come to Pitt County. I asked them if I could go to another county. They said, no, we have kids here that need help. And so we're here. We searched for 3 years for a home, and we found one. Yes, it's in a rural area. That's a good site for a home. Yes, the closest house is 140 yards away. That gives them space. Are the kids that we serve perfect? Are your kids perfect? Mine weren't. But somebody has to stand up for them, have to stand in the gap, have to intervene. Now, you saw some of my kids. They sat with me. I didn't see any monsters. I didn't see anyone that was trying to throw bricks or trying to rape someone. That's not how it works. Now, we are a mental health facility. We have a therapist, we have psychiatrists, we have doctors, we have medication management, and we do mental health interventions. We are there to help our kids. If we don't, who is? And then as we look around the room, many people here have had mental health services of some sort. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Diane Roberts.
My name is Diane Roberts, and I live 1054 Country Club Drive, Williamson, North Carolina. Good evening to y'all this evening. My message is going to be a little bit different, but nevertheless, it's important. Jesus died on the cross for each of us because he loved us, and he did no wrong, to give us a better life, to live with him in heaven or live in hell. But you have a choice to choose which one. Some will choose to live in heaven, some will choose to live in hell. But you have the opportunity to choose. These children we are talking about didn't have an opportunity to choose, a choice to whom they would be born to, and they did no wrong. But God chose us to be one step to help them make a better choice. Some will and some won't, just like you all. But they should be given the opportunity and the chance to be good citizens in society. Thank you very much.
Wilson.
My name is Wilson Clark, and I live at 504 Brick Kitchen Road in Hookerton, North Carolina. I was in Mr. Jeff's Amani group home for bad decisions that I made, and I hurt a lot of people with those bad decisions. I broke foster families' hearts, but Mr. Jeff helped me turn my life around, not only through going to church, but he had therapists that would come out and talk to us every day, and they would help us work through our mental disorders and help us work through our problems and who we wanted to become. And Mr. Jeff, any chance he could, he would take us out to a ball game, to the park, or even to do something fun like to a movie. And honestly, the group home really did change my life. It made me a better person in who I wanted to become, and it helped me realize that sometimes kids need to end up in group homes to recover from their traumatic past. Me, I was abused by my parents, went back at 18 and found out they had never changed. And sometimes that's what you have to find out the hard way. But when I did end up in the group home, it changed who I became. And I became a better person to my brothers, to foster families. I'm actually living with the foster family who I hurt and damaged the most. I actually live with that foster mom now, and I thanked her for everything that she did the second I got back into her home, because Mr. Jeff helped me realize that no matter the damage that you do cause with a family or with someone that you know personally, you can always repair it through showing your actions as a better person after learning from your past failed experiences. And me, I caused a lot of damage to that family. I cursed, I swore, but honestly, Mr. Jeff helped me turn my life around by showing me and guiding me down a path that was close to God, and he helped me through many mental disorders. Me, I have ADHD, PTSD, schizophrenia, but I don't let that define who I am anymore because of the fact that I realize that mental disorders don't define us kids who have them. We define who we become through our actions, and some kids just need extensive help, and Mr. Jeff provided that for me and everybody else who was in that group home with me as best he could. So I, for one, stand for the group home. Thank you for your time.
It starts with an S. Manning. Susan? Susan Manning.
I'm Susan Manning, and I live at 6116 NC 30. I am so proud that he has made good decisions. That is really great. And I thank Jeff and Diane for that. I am a retired school teacher, so I worked with a lot of group home students. The one thing that I really haven't heard tonight, I agree with everything that my family has said about the safety of elderly ladies, 80s and 90s living alone. When I'm at home by myself, if somebody comes up knocking on the door that I don't know at 8 o'clock at night, that scares me. And my husband owns lots of guns, so I know it scares single elderly ladies and children that are out in the yard playing. The one thing I would like to say is this group home is a level 3 home, which means they are mental health students. That is different from behavior group homes. The one deficiency that I see that's been written up a lot is not taking their medications. Now, I don't know about, is it Ashton, the young man that just spoke? I don't know if he's on medication or not, but the mental health issues that he says he has, you have to be on meds to stay, to behave, I would say, or to be a good citizen. You cannot just be a behavior problem. I mean, most teenagers are that. But if you have mental health, you have to be on medicines. I'm familiar with bipolar, and if you don't have somebody guiding you all the time or reminding you that you need your medicine, they think they don't need it, they get off, and that's when problems happen. Like I said, I taught a long time. I taught at North Pitt mostly, about 26 years. But the one thing that bothers me is when you're at school, you got a resource officer, a principal, assistant principal, other teachers, coaches, you've got help. When you're out in the country and you have a crisis, you don't have any help. Those two people at that home don't have any help until the sheriff's department gets there. But one example I can tell you about, I had a brother and a sister. They were bipolar. The brother, he just cursed, words that you hadn't ever heard before. So that's what happened when he went off his medicine. So for the majority of the year, he sat with the guidance counselor getting his information. I taught food service because they were up in kitchens with knives. He could not handle that situation. His sister, however, she was very quiet. You would not even know that she was bipolar. However, one day I went to a meeting with the youth group, and there was a sub there. She didn't know the kids. There was another boy in that room picking on her, bullying her. She went right to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and tried to attack him. That's because she was off of her meds. And that's what concerns me with this home. This is a level 3 mental health home. So I would like for you to consider that when you vote. Thank you.
Miss, what's her name?
You're going to respond back? Manning?
Ms. Manning, if the board has any questions later, would you be willing to respond?
Miley House?
Good evening, I'm Millie House, and my address is 3558 State Mill Road, Robertsonville. That's 278710.
Will you pull the mic down just a little bit?
Oh, okay, I
We
will.
have the same concern.
Okay. I'm a little short here.
Right.
Okay. My name is Millie House, 3558 State Mill Road, Robertsonville. The zip there is 27871. Some of us have Bethel addresses, some of us have Robertsonville. None of us have internet. But we're 2 miles, where I reside, it's about 2 miles from the proposed group home where it would be. And there's about a 3-mile radius there that we consider ourselves Whiter Station community. We're a very diverse community in race and ethnicity. We're African American, Caucasian, and Latino, and Russian. So even though it may be a little bit spaced out there, we're a very close community and very diverse. I appeal to you to hear our cause and to vote no. And I ask that you all, the facts that you've heard tonight that that Ms. Flynn had researched and presented, I ask that you all read those reports before you make your final decision. I have worked in mental health. I love mental health, and I truly am an advocate for mental health. And I know there is such a great need in Pitt County, and I attended the meeting there with the senators this past week here in Greenville, ECU. I taught nursing, and I possess a certification by the American Nursing Credentialing Center, and I certainly wouldn't have studied and taken that exam if I didn't care that much for mental health. I've had students in practicums in mental health, and my honest opinion is that many of these kids will do so well, and is so much needed, and we need group homes. And we need all the services for adults and adolescents for Pitt County. And all of North Carolina. However, there will be some who will not do well in a group home. As you can read those reports, there will be some that will go through elopement. They do have conduct disorder, oppositional defiant. You've heard those diagnoses. I won't repeat them. And some of those are very, very difficult to manage and very difficult to treat, and all will not be successful. So for those, read those reports. Think about the 22 calls that you've heard for police. And how can they be managed? Would it be better to have them in a place, maybe in Greenville or Winterville, where more resources are available, and not so much in the area where we're at? Yes, I would be concerned for my elderly mother and small children that would be next door or across the road, because you just have that concern and you just don't know. That's pretty much what I had to say. I don't want to repeat anything else. Again, I would advise you to go back and review the reports and before you make your final decision, and think about how would you feel having it across the road from you. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
John? Is there a John, maybe first initial F?
I think he wanted off, so.
Okay. Andrea Green?
Good evening. I am Andrea Green. I am Corporate Compliance Officer with Amani and Palace of Restoration. And my job, what I do is when there is, first of all, we are nationally accredited, so we are recognized throughout the nation, not just Pitt County, not just the state of North Carolina, but we are accredited through what we call CARF. CARF is an organization that oversees the hospitals as well. Joint, you have the Joint Commission, but we are with CARF. And we recently became accredited for the third time or fourth time, May of last year. So we're not just governed by Pitt County, Trillium. We're governed by North Carolina Department of Human Services. We're governed by the License and Regulation Department, which is Health and Service and Regulation, but also CARF, which is National Standards. There are 2,600 of them that you have to comply by in order to get this recognition, and we did that. So before I go into some people that I recognize here as educators, and I actually sat under your administration as a student. It is my pleasure to be able to say, yes, having a group home is probably one of the hardest jobs. As a director, as a facilitator, I also help train there. It is a very difficult job because you cannot control all behaviors. But what you can do is offer them the opportunity to get better management of them. So what we do there is we offer a daily schedule. So I heard questions like, so how can we guarantee that they got something to do every day? The state mandates that we provide them a daily schedule. In order to be CARF accredited, they have to see your schedule posted on the wall. When it comes to the home, yes, there are times when the children have crisis, right? They spaz out. They act like a normal teenager and they say, no, I don't want to do this. So what do? We offer them what we call redirection. We have to go through trainings on a regular in order to keep the doors open. So we're not just talking about a home that's right down the street and your kids can go and play and all that. We have rules that we have to follow. And when we don't follow them, yes, you are correct. There is a plan of correction that gives us the opportunity to fix it. Unlike my personal home, I don't get one of those. Hey, so I just want to thank you for the opportunity of considering that this is just not a regular home. Instead of us thinking about why not do it, let's think about why we should do it. Because this is the other part. If my child needed help because they had heart disease, or if they needed help because they had cancer, I would do the best I could as the best parent that I try to be. Sometimes I don't be the best can, though I try. I would try to find them the best help that I could find. And if Trillium is reaching out to organizations saying that we have children staying in the hospital for months at a time, we have children staying in DSS basements for months at a time, and we're having to pay our workers extra money because as long as that consumer is in that basement, we have to have a social worker there overnight. These are resources that are being made available that they could be eliminated if the child is in the home. We are regulated by state regulations, including the look of the facility. So guess what? We can't have a home that has property destruction and it continue to look like that. If it's not fixed, we get in trouble. Who wants that when you are CARF accredited? So we're not just government.
Are you almost finished?
I am. I just want to say
I've been
thank
patient.
you. I'm sorry. I didn't know I was over my 3 minutes. I thought a little
Yeah,
thing
the
would go
bell
off.
was ringing, honey.
It was ringing. I didn't even hear it.
Okay.
I apologize. But I do want to say, in consideration of that, we are governed, and it is not just a one-time, let me come and play at your house. We want to keep you safe, the children safe, but also those who need the help safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam
And I have another name that I may pronounce wrong. Is it Mackenzie? Do you know who signed up last on the sheet? It looks like it starts with an M-A. McKeon? Is there anybody else wishing to speak?
But no one is responding.
has his hand up.
And then,
Wait a minute.
yeah, and then I've got you on to the next list. Mr. Joe Lay?
Is that you?
Okay. In support of or in support of the rezoning? Okay.
Okay. Did we omit anyone who wanted to speak in favor of or against? We
see
will
another
permit one
hand.
other who's not on the board. Come forward, please.
Good evening. My name is Donnie Durham. I recently moved to Pitt County, but I was staying in Martin County. I'm college educated.
Oh, let's see about this mic here.
Beg
Raise
pardon?
it up a little bit towards your mouth.
How about that?
Thank you, that sounds a little better.
Okay. Do I go back, come back?
No, you just don't
Okay,
say
I'll stay
what
where I
you
am.
say.
I said, my name is Donnie Durham. I said I'm college educated, and I'm assistant pastor of a church. I could get a job anywhere I wanted to because of the not having many workers out there because of the economy. But I choose to work with young men that have had problems. Somebody, when most of the time they're taken out of the home because of the parents. Believe it or not, most of the problems start home with the parents. And then when they move these kids out of their home, sometimes they're angry because you're moving them out of the domain that they used to. But somebody has to take the pride and take their liking and take the love for trying to help whomever they can. All the NC State has the best psychiatrists, the best therapists, the best doctors, but these guys goes into prison and they back and forth, as someone has stated. But we take these kids and we show them a lot what they did never receive at home, like Wilson. And because of that, yes, there are some that gets into trouble. But there are some success stories that you haven't heard tonight. A lot of young men, we've had Africans, we've had Mexicans, we've had Caucasians, we've had blacks, and many of them have had success stories. And yes, there are going to be some. Whenever you got a 4-bedroom number 90 FHA home, and you got 4 alpha dogs, one from the north, one from the south, one from the east, one from the west, and they're all under one roof, you're going to have some problems. But the staff is trained, and we do as we are trained to do. And that's because we love these kids, and some of them are success. One day we'll take the time to talk about the success stories, and not only the ones of failure. Thank you.
Thank you. We've heard quite a number speak on this issue. I declare the public hearing closed. What's the pleasure of the board? Do you have questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Ward.
If this home were to stay open and where it is, who are these adult managers and what training do they have? And will they always be there? And is that the motive? Is the motive to get them back in society and not just give them somewhere to be safe? In other words, there's going to be instruction and direction and education about how to get themselves where they need to be. Will they get the help that they need if they're in this home? I mean, I don't know if there's anybody here that...
I would prefer that Mr. Roberts address that, because there are strict state guidelines as far as having someone in the home at all points in time. So, and again, a curriculum of sort for the clients that are in the home. So I defer to him for the specifics.
Mr. Roberts, please come forward.
May I go on his behalf?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes, yes. We are looking for your kind of...
We don't need to know the whole thing, but just a little bit more about
You
who's
heard the
going to be
question?
there. Are they going to be there, somebody there 24/7, you know, and will that person be a teacher? How many teachers will there be there? What, you know?
There's what we call the service definition that requires 2 people on staff 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year. When that is a non-compliance, that does require a plan of correction. However, we have a schedule that not only consists of 2 staff, but also on-call staff. So there should not be a deficiency in that area. The staff is trained in what we call core competency training. So they have to be trained in what we call NCI, A and B, that helps with restrictive intervention. So when they get out of hand, we don't attack the consumers. You first try to verbally prompt them to do what is told of them, but that is why they learn how to redirect their behaviors and how to rehabilitate their behaviors by going through staff showing them through verbal promptings, de-escalation, and they have to see a therapist. This is part of the service definition. They have to see a therapist at least twice a month. They also have to see their doctor. They also have to see their dentist and vision, just like you would your normal child. But they also have what we call a person-centered plan. That plan entails goals for each individual consumer. And so staff works with those individuals on their goals, and then we are held accountable for, are we reaching those goals? Every month, there's a CFT meeting, which encompasses the staff at Amani or Palace of Restoration, the qualified professional, which is a 4-year degree individual that has 2 years of experience post-education in the field, as well as they have associate professional, which is a 40-hour staff at the facility. They also have what we call paraprofessionals. Those are the two people that stay there regularly. So as far as support for the consumer, it is consistent. It is always there because that's how we meet the criteria for being a level 3.
Do we have a group like this in Pitt County?
We have a lot of them. Matter of
Like,
fact, right in
4,
Stokes,
5, 6,
we
where
have
some of them located?
probably 20 or 30.
Oh, okay,
And you already have one in Stokes, but it's not a level 3.
okay,
It's non-level. And I'm familiar with more than one of them
okay.
personally. These facilities are Robinsonville, Stokes, you have them, Greenville. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I thought I knew that, but I wanted everybody to hear that this is not standing alone.
It's not.
Any other member, you have a question? Commissioner Nunavie?
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you, ma'am.
You want me to sit down?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually,
Unless he has-
my question is for you. So,
Okay.
so I had a question about historic deficiencies with your organization, and whether or not they involve there not being sufficient supervision on site in any of the group homes. Have any of those deficiencies come about as a result of there being either not sufficient supervision at the home or lack of supervision when it was required by the agency?
There was a time when there was an insufficiency of a staff. However, we have the job of reprimanding when somebody don't show up for work, just like you do when you have any other regular job. When you know that there's supposed to be 2 people on staff and you don't show up, you get written up. Once you have 2 of those, your 3rd time is termination. However, we have what we call in-service, so that when a staff member doesn't abide by the rules that they know are the state rules or the policy and procedures of Amani, they get written up and or terminated. And so when the state comes, they look for that documentation. So it gives us the opportunity, if we didn't know, now we do know how to fix it. And so those deficiencies, though they may have been addressed to you as this is what it was, that's not what it is now. So yes, we have had plan of corrections, and that's what they do. They do annuals, and they come out and they give you a certain time frame to fix it. And then once it's fixed, they come back to see that it's fixed.
So in the last 5 years, would you be able to tell me how many deficiencies involving this specific type of supervision your organizations have?
I only remember one. When I've been with the organization, you said in the last 5 years,
Yeah.
I only remember one specifically, and that was probably 2 years ago.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You finished? Are you satisfied?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am? Milton? Commissioner McLaughlin, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would you like this, are you questioning this young lady, or would you like someone else?
Say it again.
Your questions for her?
Yeah, right. And this, my question is from Mr. Rose as well. Let me ask the first question to you, Ms. Rose. You said that the planning board recommended approval based upon the circumstances that it met all of the requirements.
Planning staff did.
Planning staff.
Board said it was consistent with our land use plan, but did not think it was appropriately located. So they denied this request as far as a recommendation to you.
The planning board recommended approval. The planning
staff recommended approval, planning board denial.
The planning board denied it. Thank you. Now, question to you.
Miss, what's your name again?
Green. Andrea Green.
Miss Green.
Now, I understand that someone, I think it was Mr. Manning, reported that your facility in Williamston, North Carolina, is that you have and that it was somewhat of nature of 22 complaints from the police department came to your facility 22 times? Are you?
No. The Palace of Restoration did have complaints 22 times to the police, because our protocol is whenever there is a crisis with the consumer, like for example, if the consumer elopes, then we are to call, at the time, we thought we were supposed to call the police initially, because we had just moved into that area. But we later found out that we could call mobile crisis instead of the police. So we were able to eliminate that issue by finding out better information, because that facility has only been open for a year and some change. So we called the police just to make sure we were following proper protocol, but then we researched and found out that we could go other venues in order to help stabilize behaviors, and mobile crisis is who we use now. So that would be the same in the case of if we were in Stokes in that area, we would call mobile crisis first.
Well, I want to personally commend you, Mr. Roberts, for your willingness to help these children or these individuals. I think it's commendable. The other thing that I'm concerned about was the kids that you actually have in the facilities. What I'm hearing two things. First, I'm hearing that most of them are trouble kids, and then I'm hearing some say they aren't necessarily trouble because some of the I'm assuming I'm familiar with this facility, some facilities in this nation. Sometimes the parents abandon the kids because they've been locked up. The parents are trouble.
Right.
It's not the kids, and the kids need some place to stay because of their parents. What percentage of these kids that are in your facilities that meet that requirement?
100% of the children that we receive into our facility have to have first a mental health diagnosis, regardless of whatever the backstory is. So mental health is the first criteria for them to be admitted. After that, we have to do what we call screening and an intake before we can actually admit. So it's not just we see a child and say, come on. So they have to meet the criteria, first of all, and then a doctor approves them prior to them being admitted into our facility. The ones that are homeless, I don't have the statistics on those, but majority of the time what happens is right here recently, as far as I am aware, we take DSS kids. So DSS is the first liaison or the first referral source to us to say, we have children here that are staying at our facility, or they're homeless, their parents are locked up, they don't have any other supports, or they do have a mother or a father that may be involved that can visit. Either way, once we go through the screening and intake process, it has to be a medical necessity for that child to be admitted into the home by a doctor who puts their name on that plan of correction that I told you about earlier, and then that is sent up to the MCO. The MCO here is Trillium. So that's why Trillium reached out to us, because they were getting a lot of referrals from DSS saying, we need home for these kids that have mental health diagnoses.
Okay, thank you.
Ask a question on the lines of that. So this,
Ma'am, I'm sorry, the
I
public,
just want her to tell us this is a level 3 home that they're trying to put there. And I'm confused on what you're saying. Are they all mental health children, or are they troubled children? I mean, there's a difference there. Mental health issues are different.
ma'am, I'm very sorry, but I did ask, was there anybody with to say anything else? And public hearing is closed, and these questions are coming from board members. And it's our time to question whomever we feel necessary. So I'm sorry, I cannot entertain your question right now, okay? Commissioner McLaughlin, are you finished?
I'm finished.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Commissioner Huggins?
I'm a little bit torn between the board recommendation and the staff recommendation.
Mr. Rose, you hear Commissioner Huggins' query?
I did, but I didn't hear a question, so.
I didn't either. I heard a comment. Mr. Rose would like a question, Commissioner Huggins.
Would you talk about that, the difference in
in those two recommendations for us, please?
From the planning board's perspective, I'm going to start there first. They heard the type of testimony and comments that you had tonight. They in turn agreed with staff partly that the land use plan does allow for such things in that area of the county, such as this. They did at the same time say that this isn't an appropriate place for it in this case. After hearing all the discussion, they weighed that factor in. From staff's perspective, we look at the land use plan. That is what you have developed as a policy. We believe it is consistent. We have talked with Mr. Roberts. We have limited some of the things, especially the number of folks or clients that he would have in the home. Those are conditions that we felt comfortable saying that we would recommend in this case. So it is, instead of starting with 30, we're down to 4, and it's in with some other criteria that have to be met. Has to keep that state license in check. So that's kind of where we drew the line. Professionally, we have to look at the land use plan and then step back from it with specific conditions, and we felt like we put those in place. And again, this board, if they wanted to move forward, if the board members wanted to move forward, additional conditions could be placed on it with Mr. Roberts' consent. So we've got Mr. Roberts' consent on the conditions that we brought forward to you tonight. Any other questions?
What I'm looking for, I'm trying to find out what was it that gave the planning board's heartburn?
Primarily the testimony and the comments that were made, yes. Staff was not privy to that at the point in time we made our recommendation. And again, we based it off the land use plan.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Commissioner Colson? No questions?
No.
Is the board ready to vote? I need a motion. I can't motion and chair it too. I'm waiting for a motion, board members.
Can we continue this? Can we not vote on this tonight?
We need a motion.
Yes, the attorney.
Mr. Jordan? Alternative.
Continue it till the next week.
You can defer action generally to a future meeting. I would ask the planning director, is there any time constraints in our zoning ordinance? I'm unaware of any, but there are some in our subdivision ordinance.
I will have to defer also. I think it's within 45 days, but I cannot say for sure.
So, yes, if it were to be deferred to a future date, I would recommend doing it in 45 days or less, which your next meeting would be under that threshold.
Okay.
Or we could give Mr. Rhodes some time to ascertain that with certainty.
Do you now have a question, Mr. Colson? Commissioner Colson? Are you satisfied with your decision?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
It was a motion by Commissioner Colson to deny, and Commissioner Holloman seconded. Let's vote. The motion to deny, you agree with it is yes, is that right?
Correct.
If you,
If you vote yes, the home will not proceed. If you vote no, the home may proceed.
so you understand? Let's vote. So that those in the audience could understand what we vote. The yes means that they agree with you. The no means that they are opposed to what the majority of you talked about.
So 2 would be no, 1 would be yes.
One is yes,
Correct.
two is
One
no. The
is-
motion is to deny.
The motion is
That
to
would be
deny.
one. That would be one,
Yes,
right?
so we're agreeing with the motion. That's one.
Oh, I just need more time.
You've not voted, Commissioner Huggins?
I need more time.
Can we clear it and start over, because we've had some confusion on
Yes.
Okay.
which was correct, so we're
Well,
just gonna
clear,
this.
Madam Clerk.
Clear it and
So
then
just-
restate it.
The
To be clear-
motion was
To
to...
clear it,
de-
I'm just advancing it to the next one. and-
Okay. Commissioner Colson stated what we deny the request made by this organization.
Correct.
Commissioner Holloman seconded, agreeing with Mr. Colson. All you have to do is decide if you agree with Mr. Colson's motion to deny the placement of the home. And no will mean that you're going against it. Huh?
But you had two.
If you agree with Mr. Colson, you won.
No, also, could no also, I mean, if
No
it,
could also mean that you need more time.
yeah, no could
Right.
also mean you need more time,
That's right.
Right.
which would be two.
Correct.
Everyone has voted. We have 5 yeses and 3 noes. The motion that Mr. Colson made is approved.
And would you restate that?
That means that the home cannot be open. The board voted with those coming to us and making appeal to deny.
And
That is the ruling.
And Madam Chair, a procedural housekeeping matter is we need to address the consistency statement and a reasonableness statement. And so in your packet on page 8 and 9.
Turn to page 8 and 9.
That's where I am already.
So at the bottom of page 8, under 1, consistency statement. That's the next paragraph, and to the next page on page 9. This board needs to adopt a consistency and reasonable statement, and you can say it's consistent and then unreasonable for whatever reasons you would like. This, as presented, is staff's recommendation, so they believe it's consistent and reasonable, but based off this board's action, I believe y'all think it is unreasonable. So if you could just state any reasons for that in the record, and make it in the form of a motion and vote on it. It's a procedural requirement to comply with 160D 605.
Could you give us a statement so it'll be worded properly, Mr. Attorney?
So I believe you could adopt the first part about consistent as is. Consistency with the land use plan is not determinative of your outcome. And then for the second part, the request, I guess you would say, is unreasonable and not for the public interest due to concerns stated tonight at the legislative hearing that you heard.
Did you all understand the attorney's statement?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, did you catch it?
Yes.
We need a motion to agree with the statement that the attorney gave us.
So moved.
Second.
It was moved by Commissioner Smith, second by Commissioner Colson, and you vote yes to agree with the motion.
And this would be just for this particular,
You're finding that it is consistent with the land use plan, but denying the
Denying it.
request. You would be acting the same fashion as the planning board.
Yes.
If we vote how?
If you vote yes.
Yes, we are acting in the same
And yes.
arena of the planning board.
Repeat that.
It's
again.
consistent with, it is consistent with the land use plan. But
you
it's
are
not,
denying.
but it is not in cooperation with the community.
Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to just make a comment that I believe that many of the arguments about it being so far out and so hard to be able to give, help police, rescue, so on and so forth, kind of suggests to me that our land use plan has taken this and kind of paint it with a broad brush and allow it to go anywhere, maybe we ought to think about whether or not it's acceptable in areas like this. I don't know exactly how to break that down, but
Sounds like you're asking the planning department to make some further assessment of the issue. Commissioner Nunley, we don't want to stay all night.
Thank you,
We've
Madam Chair.
already ruled.
I'll be brief. I think that, while I think that it's always prudent to review planning staff decisions, I do think that we've made sufficient changes to our process that allows us to consider all the facts and the flexibility that we had here. We were able to leverage that to come to a conclusion with this specific case. So, you know, I see the commissioner's question about whether or not revisiting in whole. I also had concerns about response times, but I'm not sure that we need to. I would not be in favor of directing planning staff to look at a modification of the planning.
So, for
so we can move
consistency.
on in my,
Pardon?
so we can move on as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you. We will take,
I do have a comment.
all right, well, Commissioner Huggins. We don't want to stay on this all night. We made a decision.
As we talked about the distance, you know, this home is out there and it's not, there's not seemingly close residents, very close residents. So,
See a room full of them.
yeah, I mean, very close, like next door in town. So if we were, I don't think we need to change our planning thing, but I just want to say that I think there would be problems if it was in town and someone said, well, we need it needs to be in town where it is the response time for EMS and police and everything would be quicker. Sure, that's true. But I also want to say that we would probably have just as many people present in this room if it was in the city limits. So I just want to put that out there to you.
Item number 9, items for report. We've solved that issue. Now, I want the people in the audience to know, because we have had some discussion afterward. Do you know what the ruling was? Do you all understand? The board agreed with you. Good night.
Thank you.
Item number 9, item for report. Dr. Waldron, are you here? Oh, thank you, sir. Y'all please leave quietly. Item.
He can talk loud.
ECU Health Rep, Dr. Waldron. Thank you so much for
Commissioners,
being
thank you for
patient.
inviting me. A pleasure always to come and present to you. I was asked to come and talk about, I think it was related to the recent
Could we
clinical.
wait until they clear the room?
Okay.
They need to quit talking.
We have a deputy at the door. Could you close the door, please? Thank you, sir. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you. I was asked to come and maybe answer questions. As always, I'm willing to answer questions, but to speak specifically to Medicaid expansion and how some of the recent decisions that you heard about with some clinic closures, how those may relate. So I appreciate that opportunity. I could speak to you about Medicaid expansion from a small business, pro-small business initiative. And I could speak to you about Medicaid expansion, about efficient use of our tax dollars. But I'm not going to, and if you want to get into those items, I'd be willing to get into them. It's a subject that I've studied for many years. But I will talk to you about how Medicaid expansion affects health care. And as the CEO and Dean at ECU Health and serving a 29-county region, one of the most difficult healthcare markets in the country, that you don't need to be reminded has been underserved for generations and under-resourced for generations. And many of the people that are here working at ECU Health are here because of the mission to provide care and to improve the health and well-being of Eastern North Carolina. That's why we're here, and that's what we do. And I think you may remember that I presented to you over the coming up on 8 years in my time in Eastern North Carolina, the fact that we've suffered from limited access to health care primarily because of healthcare worker shortages in that 29-county region, and the difficulty of getting doctors and nurses to our environments to provide access to healthcare services, which leads to higher mortality rates for our community and premature and frankly chronic diseases that go unmanaged and a myriad of healthcare issues. That was the baseline before COVID-19. And since COVID-19 has hit, and I've spent time in front of you during those very difficult months at the initiation, but now that we're 3 years into the pandemic, the fact is that healthcare has shifted massively in those 3 years. And it's primarily due to the fact that anybody that could be in healthcare and get out, got out. About 20% of the healthcare workforce got out of healthcare at a national level, doctors, nurses, and others. And so the staffing and workforce issues that we heard a little bit about before, the epicenter of that is in healthcare, because it's been very difficult to be in healthcare during this unbelievable time during the pandemic. And that has led to a national crisis in healthcare from a financial perspective. You can Google it, you can look from the most reputable places across the country and across the state, including us. We are facing unprecedented financial challenges. And nowhere in the country is that more significant than in non-expansion states. The risk to rural hospitals, rural providers, and to meeting the expectations that our patients have and the services that we want to provide, that's leading to long and unbelievable issues in our emergency rooms, hospitals overflowing because we do not have the workforce to provide those services. And the price for those services has gone up significantly, which has made the bottom line negative. 75% of our price is capped by the government. So those of you that think we work in a free market society, healthcare does not work in that fashion. We have prices that are fixed by our government, and we have a federal mandate to serve anyone that shows up in our emergency room with regardless of their ability to pay. And that is the challenge that I and our organization are facing. And we have a lot that we can work with to solve those problems. With ECU Health and having the largest and best nursing school in the country, in the state, and one of the best medical schools and a lot of assets at ECU, and an incredibly vibrant organization that used to be called Vidant that spans those 29 counties. We have a lot of assets to be successful through this very difficult time. But I have spoken to our legislators in Raleigh and in Washington, D.C. Over the fall. We knew this storm was coming, and I pleaded for action and said that we will be making plans to do things that we don't want to do. And as a physician executive, I take the decisions extremely seriously, because I know when you decrease access to health care, it can be measured in lives. However, we cannot continue to sustain the losses that we are incurring, and we will adjust so we can maintain some access and be able to serve our communities. And so we are very grateful that the House passed the bill to do Medicaid expansion in HASP. It will have a significant positive impact. It will not be a panacea. It will not solve all of our problems, but we are on life support and we need help. And Medicaid and HASP will help us and will give us time to work with with you and our other elected officials and our communities to navigate through these times. And if you heard what I said, the biggest issue is workforce. It takes time to educate new nurses and new doctors. They don't just happen. And so we're working on programs to increase the pipeline. You may have read about some of those. So we're hopeful that the Medicaid and HASP will continue to move forward. It is, like I mentioned, a significant benefit to us because it's designed to help organizations that primarily take care of underinsured and uninsured people, and that's what we do. And we're proud of it, but it does lead to issues, as I mentioned. With that, I am happy to answer specific questions. There's a lot of detail around what I said, and I can give more specificity if desired or answer other questions. So I appreciate the opportunity to, as always, to meet with you and talk to you about the incredible asset that we have that was created from Pitt County, with Pitt County Memorial Hospital growing now into ECU Health Medical Center, which is about the 10th largest hospital in the country in Greenville, North Carolina. And it's a big, vibrant, complex organization that does incredible work every day. And I just would close with thanking, besides y'all, the healthcare workers that work 24/7, 365 to take care of the people of Eastern North Carolina.
Dr. Waldron is willing to take your support, your question, Commissioner
Thank you.
McLaughlin.
Dr. Waldron, I want to thank you for your comments, and I thank you for what you've done for the citizens of Pitt County. I think you've done a tremendous job. In your comments, I think I hear that Medicaid expansion would certainly be a great benefit for the hospital as well as the citizens of Pitt County. It seemed to me that, if I'm hearing correctly, that we are on the positive road in getting that completed. I mean, I think the legislators are beginning to see and hear what you're saying. And it seems like, as I read some articles, we are in the process of possibly making that happen for this year. So thank you again for what you're doing.
Thank you. I will comment that last fall, we had the football on the first-yard line. We had emergent meetings with the governor and other folks on a Thursday, thinking we had the ball over the finish line, and on Friday it didn't get over the finish line, and here we are. And so I cannot continue to hope that it will get into the end zone. And I'll be very consistent with you, as I have with all elected officials, that I cannot hope that that will happen and risk the viability of the company long term. I will have to act and continue to act to rectify the financial situations and make decisions we do not want to make. And the longer it lasts, more of those decisions will be made.
Commissioner Huggins.
Thank you for coming, Dr. Waldron. My concern is the closing of those 5 clinics and the savings of, I believe, $1.2 or $1.6 million by closing those 5 clinics. When you say that you have lost $46 million, so and at that time, Medicaid expansion was not quite on the table as happening in this session. So I'm glad it's on its way, and I understand it's not going to take care of everything, but it will help. So I want to know now, what happens, what are you going to do to make up the rest of that $46 million? Can you share with us your next step? What are you going to cut next? I'm sure that, as I said, it's going to take a while for Medicaid to take effect. So, to close those 5, and they are in the area of the state. Of course, we here in the East, we are the poorest part of the state, and also, chronic illness is high. So when you put those clinics in those areas, you put them there because they were needed. And now that you have closed them, and I know you're making all efforts to open up clinics nearby, but that takes into transportation and all that, and all the other barriers that will face those patients in that area. So again, what can you share with us your next step in making up this loss that you've had?
Commissioner Huggins, a couple of comments on that. I want to just make sure that you understand that, first, we didn't place those clinics in those communities. Those clinics joined our health system because they were struggling to survive over time.
Okay.
And so I think it's important to understand that that's the fabric of what we have. And so the hospitals and the clinics that have joined the system do it out of necessity. And so a lot of people talk about hospital mergers and those things, but I can tell you I've never met a doctor group or a hospital or a business that wants to merge with something larger just because. They tend to do it because it's survival, because of the financial systems that drive the market and the regulatory environment. Healthcare is the highest regulated industry in the country, and so that drives these decisions. And so I've got a great team. We're looking at a lot of things, and I can't tell you specifically. I can tell you how we approach it. So our mission is to improve the health and well-being of Eastern North Carolina. So we're always looking at how do we take our resources and maximize doing that. And so when we look at, for instance, some of those clinics, it was how close are they to other clinics and those kind of things. And so minimalizing the impact as much as we can, and then give ourselves time to do other things. And so improving operational performance in other areas that help us be successful. But don't have any specific items that we're ready to talk about at this time. We're hopeful, again, that we don't wait another 3 or 4 months. And so it depends on somewhat how long this gets drawn out.
I remember when I was on the board, we had a similar problem. We had to close down some facilities, but you had some urgent care open that it was maintained for people who had problems. So that those people in those areas didn't just not get into service because you opened some clinic, and it wasn't like it wasn't a hospital per se, but you did. Is that in the plan to continue with those?
Yeah, I think it's like this. How do we reconfigure the service and bring different groups together, decrease the rent, and so we may take 2 clinics that are, they're related and maybe a few miles away from each other and say, well, we don't want to pay rent in 2 places. How do we be more efficient? So those are the kind of plans that we're working through. And I will say that, $1.2 million doesn't make up the difference very seriously. So when you read in the paper about not-for-profit healthcare companies that look like for-profit companies, we are not that place. We subsidize birthing babies in 5 hospitals in eastern North Carolina that have on average 1 baby a day. No business makes money serving 1 person a day if you consider that you have to have doctors and nurses in those communities to have that 1 baby a day. Now, on average, they come 1 baby a day, but they don't come that way. They come 5 in 1 day and then none for 3 days, and they come so it's a very chaotic environment. But I can tell you that if you look at not-for-profit healthcare companies that cut services, they often go after that service. And we know from the literature that if you cut those services in communities like Ahoskie, North Carolina, more moms and babies die in Ahoskie, North Carolina. So that is at the very end of the list for us, not at the beginning. And it's at the beginning of some hospitals when they look at that. So as a physician, healthcare administrator, if somebody has to drive 10 more miles, that's an inconvenience. Closing a service that I know more moms and babies are going to die in eastern North Carolina, which already has one of the highest mortality and maternal and infant mortality rates in the country, those become the last. So that gives you an idea how we think about what we do when we adjust and how seriously we take these decisions. We need help to have Medicaid expansion and HASP happen, so it helps us keep those services alive.
Commissioner Coastman, since I'm looking that way, did you?
Well, I have a question as it probably gets to your lack of or cutting back services. But your emergency room right now, it may have changed since the episode that I was there. But when I went there with my wife, she was patient 138. And it was almost at the point where we wanted to just get up and just walk out.
Mm-hmm.
You used to have, I'll call it triage or whatever, out at the
That's right.
Arlington. And it got closed down. I'm going to guess it had something to do with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But it's never been opened up again, to my knowledge, has it?
Yeah, first, we do not like the experience you and a lot of our patients have and their families have in the emergency room. Again, this is a national and local problem. All of the emergency rooms are really feeling this unbelievable burden right now. And you can Google that and fact check me all you want. But we know we live here and it's a serious problem here. So I've got a team working, and so do we reopen those kind of things or do other things to help us relieve that situation. The primary issue goes back to the issue that I described. You know, we could open a building, but if we don't have staff to put in the building, it doesn't do us any good. And so it goes back to what I said right now. The major issue is the staffing and the cost of staff. But we do have a team that's working on a number of different initiatives to offload that problem, because it is a big problem for sure. And we apologize for your experience.
Thank you, Dr. Waldron, for your readiness to come and address this board. If we should have some questions in the future, we'll be happy to let you know.
Great.
I don't think I'm cutting anyone short around here, so we're going to the next issue. Item number 292, Mr. Moore and David Hodgkins. We're a little behind on our schedule, so let's pick up our conversation a little bit.
I'll keep my comments relatively brief. I'd like to introduce Mayor John Moore at the rear, and Commissioner Alma Hobbs are here with me. Just wanted to let you know, in case you haven't heard, we're in dire need of a fire station in Farmville. The current station was built in 1928. It's not ADA accessible. It's poorly located within the downtown area of our town. It is, cannot be expanded. It's on 2 floors. It's just, it's way outdated, of course. Anybody who's been to downtown Farmville has seen it and certainly should be familiar with it, not being what you would consider a typical modern fire department. Farmville is a growing community. Call volume has increased about 41% over the last 5 years. And so the calls for service, the pressure on the existing facility and our fire staff are only growing. And we have lots of development pressures that are hitting Farmville. Fortunately, is a desirable place to develop now and to live, and it always has been, but people are discovering it. So we would like to build a new facility. We have designed something which will meet our needs for maybe the next 50 years. So far, the current facility's been around since 1928, so hopefully we don't have to repeat that again. But anyway, we have limited resources. We have examined various sources of revenue for this department. Of course, we've looked into grants, loans, even talked to the state legislature, and are looking into other funding sources, but we can't really count on that. Those are at best uncertain. So we need to, we need partners. We need folks who, like you, who would recognize the need for this part of the county. The facility as designed could meet our needs for the foreseeable future, of course. It could meet the needs of a modern fire department, 24-hour staffing eventually. We have daytime staff during the day that we've had to add in the last year, but eventually, obviously, we're going to need dormitory space, things like that. We also need facilities to support or to store all of our equipment, to do training for our members, and we also are looking into possible EMS co-location, or at least bays for ambulances. We need space for emergency operations center. Just a lot of opportunities for a facility this size. And so I've had some discussions with your county manager, and I understand there may be some issues of equity that some of you may have some concerns about. And we've talked a little bit about those. And I would just ask that this board consider the critical nature of our need in Farmville, and also perhaps keep the line of communication open for some potential funding, and also perhaps allow the county manager and I to continue to have these discussions and work out some potential parameters for possible participation by the county in the future. Be glad to answer any questions.
Any question, board members?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Colson.
are you familiar with Eastern Pines and the expansion of the fire department there?
Somewhat.
You need to go visit them. They kind of were like what you were describing, where you are right now. And they came before us, and there's a big community effort to expand it. And we finally, I'm going to say Eastern Pines, which I live in that area, we agreed to a huge tax increase only in Eastern Pines. Now, when a town comes together and it forms itself, it says, hey, I'm going to do better than the county government, and so therefore you get incorporated. At that point, you take on, I'm going to say, the necessity of the tax increase within the town. So I'm going to ask Madam Manager, if is there any way that Farmville could benefit from a localized tax increase for their area like we did in Eastern Pines, but that was in this, outside the corporate limits of the town. It was within the county.
Right, so we set the fire tax rate for the rural fire department service districts. The tax rate within Farmville would be within the discretion of the Farmville Town Board. We don't set that rate.
That's what I'm thinking.
Could they? Sure, but we don't influence that.
So you need to move it outside the city limits, I guess.
I'm sorry, there is a Farmville rural fire tax. Actually, our fire chief is here in the audience too, Tommy Brady. This serves more than obviously the town of Farmville corporate limits. It also serves a large rural area that surrounds the town. So the Farmville Fire District, it's a rural fire department. It's not a municipal department per se, in the pure sense of the word. It does not just serve the town of
But from
Farmville.
tax standpoint, it's not. Is that correct, Madam Manager?
Right, so we contract with the town in order to provide fire service in the rural area, and we levy a rural fire tax for that rural service district that Farmville serves. We do not levy a tax within the municipal limits of Farmville.
Correct.
So we could, for that small area, have a proposed increase, not to cover everything in the town of Farmville, to burden that one area.
Well,
Yeah.
could maybe piggyback on this and just ask the question direct? Does Farmville currently have a local fire tax that's levied on its citizens?
Not within the corporate limits.
Not within the corporate
But I will
limits.
add that even a penny on the tax rate would generate very small amount. You're talking about a facility that's going to cost millions of dollars. 1 penny on the tax rate might generate,
So what
$40,000 or something.
Right.
What
So
would
it's
10
not.
cents? What would 10 cents generate? Because that's about what it was.
I'm just guessing probably 10 cents, I don't know, maybe $500,000. It's not we don't have a large tax base in Farmville. I mean, it's growing and our demand for service is growing, but you'd have to have a really significant tax rate to make a dent in this. I mean, we're serving Farmville, as the county manager mentioned, Farmville Fire Department is serving a large swath of unincorporated Pitt County.
Name some of those areas, because that's what I was going to ask you to do, because a lot of people depend on that fire department.
I'm going to maybe need to defer to Chief Brady. He could probably speak specifically to some areas, the streets or roads and things.
Well, just a general area.
I mean, I can, but I'm sure he
As they
can.
go out, I know.
We covered the rural area of Farmville,
I think he's.
between Bell Arthur, Fountain, Baldwin, anything that's not outside of corporate limits. We have a 6-mile district from our station. Where the current station's at, we go 6 road mile service district. So we cover up to 6 miles, 3 miles, pretty much 6 miles outside of Farmville. So like pretty much, from the Farmville area, from the Lanes Cross roadside to the county line, and we don't go over the Green County line. We border by Green County. Then we go down towards Bell Arthur out down Stanford Road.
It's a pretty large area is what I'm
Right.
trying to.
It's a much larger area, rural. The
Than
rural area is
most-
much larger than the
right,
corporate
than most
limits
people think, right.
Geographically, right.
Commissioner McGlohorn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now, I think I read somewhere where it's $8.2 million to construct this.
That's the latest estimate, yes, sir. It's gone up considerably, obviously, in the last few years as construction costs have gone up.
And you may have mentioned this, I may have just not heard you correctly. What are some of the funding sources that you've gotten in place to?
We've looked into, we've had discussions, ongoing discussions with USDA. Those are loans, no grant money available there. We have talked with some of our state representatives. There actually is a bill that's been introduced in the Senate to provide an appropriation, but that was just filed, I think, the 15th of February. So that's very early in the process. That's wholly uncertain, that's totally, I mean, we would certainly welcome that, but we're not counting our chickens before they hatch, so to speak. You know, obviously, we've spent money, town funds, on design so far. We've gone through the process of design. We're essentially 100% complete on our design, and I'd say 90% on our permitting through the state. So we've got a shovel-ready project, pretty much. It's probably within 60 days of ready to bid. That's how close we are. But everything's on hold until we, you know, line up the funding.
Commissioner Nunley?
This is a question maybe for a manager and maybe for our county attorney, maybe everybody. But the situation, it sounds as if we've got a rural municipality that doesn't have the tax base to build something that they need to build, that services a rural area that needs the services, right? And oftentimes in urban settings where we have special districts that we can apply for and vote on to have special tax districts specifically for those areas in urban centers. I wonder if it is not possible to draw a similar type of special use district for situations such as this where we need something, clearly everyone needs something, but there's not a mechanism in place at the municipal level and at the county level because we're split. Is there a way to package it in a special district where we have some overlapping jurisdiction so we can leverage the sufficient tax base to raise the funds necessary to serve for the service area? And that, to me, if we can come up with something like that, allays some of the equity concerns, because, you know, obviously you want folks that are receiving the service to be the ones that pay for the service. And so is that something that in this situation that might be explored between staff and the municipality?
We can certainly explore that, and I don't know if Jordan has an answer off the top of his head, but I do believe that we could create such a district. I think the challenge would be including enough tax base within the service area to levy a rate that would not be so burdensome on the citizens and be meaningful in the amount of money that it would collect. But it would certainly be glad to explore that and bring that back to you.
My thought is if we start nibbling at the problem a little bit and start trying to think outside the box, maybe we can get it to a point where it seems manageable. Right now, it just seems a little unmanageable. With their tax base, we don't have a sufficient rural tax district that we could leverage. So it seems like we've got to do something a little different in our approach. And so,
Can we look at that and maybe you or whoever you need to get together?
Certainly.
And let us know
Look at all our options.
what we can do and give us different options. Because it's absolutely needed.
Certainly. And one other thing, just to add to what Commissioner Nunley spoke on, this is not something we're, you know, asking for a bag of money all at once. We're going to have to, in one way or another, we're going to have to finance at least a portion of this, and so debt service would come in over time. And USDA, your first payment isn't even due until a year after the facility is open. So, I mean, there's time to do certain things, but we don't want to commit to things that we don't have, you know. So the debt, the revenue would come in over time if you did want to look into the tax rate to help service that debt over a 20-year or more period. So I'd certainly be willing to talk with or work with the county manager.
Would you give the staff the time to look into this issue a little further?
Yes, ma'am.
And look at possibilities and options, okay?
I have one quick question, Madam Chair. Just for my information, what's the current tax rate for farmers?
The current tax rate is 49 cents per
$0.49. Thank you.
So, thank you so very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks. And thanks to your crew who joined you as well.
Mr. Smith. Greenville, Pitt County, African American Culture with 12. Report. report.
Yep, but I don't think that's the right PowerPoint, unless you want to talk about roads.
Get the right one up there.
We need the Vista Bureaus.
Yeah, I see it behind
Is it there?
Just if you minimize that, perfect.
While he's pulling that up, I'll just make two notes. Especially grateful that Andrew Schmidt came to talk to us about the African American Cultural Trail Report this month in Black History Month. This makes it especially appropriate, and we also appreciate his Pitt County pride wearing
sure.
his.
My wife said it looked great on me, so I'm just saying. She never lies. So. Anyway, thank you guys very much for allowing me to just give you a quick update on our African American Cultural Trail.
Thank you.
I'm Andrew Schmidt. I'm the president and CEO of Visit Greenville NC. That's our Convention and Visitors Bureau representing Greenville and Pitt County. Also want to recognize we have some of our advisory board members, so if you'd raise your hands, advisory board members. So I appreciate them coming as well. So just to give you a quick synopsis of what this trail is, we launched it in October of 2021, and we wanted to do a couple things with the trail. Really, the first thing is we wanted to honor African Americans and their contributions that they've made to the growth of Greenville and Pitt County. It's very important. The other thing is we wanted another tourism tool, a cultural and arts tourism tool to bring people to Pitt County to take the trail and spend money. So we have 6 stops. I'll give you a quick overview of what those stops are in just a second. But the exciting news for Pitt County is we are expanding into the county, and I want to tell you about those stops as well. Just to let you know how you can access the trail, you can go to our website at visitgreenvillenc.com and go to our African American Cultural Trail, but it's mostly housed on our app. We have an app for the trail, and it has each stop. It has information on each stop. But the great thing about the app is that it also has access to audio recordings of people that were at Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church when it was an actual church and not burned to the ground. Also, people that lived in the neighborhood where Town Common stands today. So it's a great app, and it gives you lots of information and allows you to really hear from the people that lived this. So I'm going to go through the 6 stops very quickly. First is Sycamore Hill Gateway Plaza, right there on Town Common. I chose this picture just to show you that each stop has an interpretive sign that has information about that stop. That's the basic information, and then the app has the information to augment what you see on those interpretive signs. But Sycamore Hill Gateway Plaza is a wonderful site. It tells about the church that was there and how people really flocked to that church. It was a center for everything in that particular area. We also have Town Common and talk about urban renewal. That's our second stop. It's right next to the Sycamore Hill Gateway Plaza. I'm amazed at how many people did not know that the Town Common was once a thriving African-American neighborhood. It had everything. It had doctors, dentists, lawyers, bankers, and it was a center of the African-American neighborhood. And unfortunately, to urban renewal, everybody that lived there was moved down Fifth Street. So we talk about that. We talk about the urban renewal process and what happened, but it's really great. That picture on the left I love. It's First Street, and you can see Sycamore Hill Gateway Plaza, our Sycamore Hill Church at the end of First Street. So it really is an interesting story and also a sign of what happened during that time. We do honor early black health professionals. The stop, our third stop, is actually located between 1st and 2nd Street, where the St. Francis Colored Hospital was in the early 1900s. Obviously, that building's not there, but we do talk about that building. But we also honor our other early black health professionals, including, and there's 2 just pictures here, the Midwives Network for African Americans to give, to help with giving birth was huge. We had lots of African American midwives in Pitt County, and then also Andrew Best is honored. And we have some great oral history on Andrew Best that's part of our app and part of our trail. And obviously we have honored him with a bridge as well. But we would definitely wanted to honor our early black health professionals. Arts and culture, very, very important to honor early black arts and culture in our area. You've got two folks here, obviously Billy Taylor. I think everybody's familiar with Billy Taylor. We have a mural on just off of Pitt Street of Mr. Taylor. And then Johnny Wooten was more local. He was a music teacher at CMEPS, but he was also very integral in getting East Carolina College at the time to allow black artists to play at East Carolina College. So we have those stories that talk about arts and culture. The block is just an incredible story. It's if you're not familiar with where the block was, it was Albemarle Avenue. And so on Albemarle Avenue, you had everything. You had, restaurants, you had entertainment venues, you had the barber shops, you had the city cab company. You had so much there up and down that area, that block and a half area. So much that one of the stories talks about black soldiers in World War II being from Greenville and referencing the block, and other soldiers knew all about this area. So that was a really integral part of the African American community, which was on Albemarle Avenue. And then also early black educators. We want to honor our early black educators. CMEPS is seated in the middle in that first picture, and obviously we honor him and other early black educators. Our stop here is at CMEPS High School, where the old CMEPS High School was. And so we'd like for people to come and learn about everything from, what it was like to go to a segregated school to what it was like to go to a school that was not segregated and be one of the first African Americans in that situation. So there's all sorts of different stories that we tell when it comes to early black educators. Again, all these stops are in basically Greenville proper, the city center. We wanted to get out into Pitt County, so we have 3 future stops, 2 in Pitt County, 1 in Greenville. Greenwreath Park, which is in the Falkland Bruce area, early black landowners in the Simpson and also Grimesland area, and then Brown Hill Cemetery. So I'll give you just a quick preview of what's to come for Pitt County stops. And I do want to say that this trail is ever evolving. So we continue to look for different opportunities in Pitt County to add to our trail. So this is a living, breathing trail. It's never going to end. And we hope one day to even tie it to other counties. But Greenwreath Park is located, again, on the Greenwreath Plantation on the banks of the Tar River. Incredibly interesting story. We had an individual, an African-American named Nelson Hopkins, and in 1927 he rented some land from William Moore, and he leased a park and opened it up for African-American use. And basically it was it was a beach because it was on the Tar River, but it was an amusement park. So it was really the first area where African-Americans could go in eastern North Carolina to recreate. So that was really interesting. It lasted, unfortunately, just for 2 years. There's more backstory behind that. He got, I guess Mr. Moore got some pressure from other citizens in the county, and they ended up having to close that down. But it's a really interesting story of entrepreneurship on the part of Mr. Hopkins, and also other stories that go with that as well. And you can see on the map where it is. Obviously, you're kind of between Falkland and Bruce where that is, but we've got it marked. We've got tons of information, so we'll be developing this site as part of the trail. We also wanted to honor early black landowners. Agriculture is such a big part of our heritage here in Pitt County. And so after the Civil War, we did have several black landowners that we wanted to highlight. And we're going to focus on the Hawkins and Leary families, and we have a lot of documentation for both of those families. And we want to talk about what they grew, how they lived, how they got to become landowners in a time where it wasn't easy for an African American to do that. And so we've got a map here to show you where the markers are. And again, we're in between really Grimesland and Simpson here for these stops. And then the last stop that we'll be adding is Brown Hill Cemetery, and that is purchased by the city in 1939. The main reason we wanted to add Brown Hill is because it ties in with one stop that we already have, and that's Sycamore Hill Gateway Plaza. When urban renewal happened and the church was burned down and there was people buried at that site, they actually moved those individuals over to Brown Hill Cemetery. So there's a tie-in with Sycamore Hill Missionary Baptist Church there. So those are the kind of a very quick, I know you guys got a lot in your agenda, but a very quick snapshot of what we're doing with the trail. I will say that we just had our state representative from Visit North Carolina down here, and he is working with us at the state level to help market the trail and also to tie the trail into other counties so we can have a regional trail for African American heritage. So we're excited about the future, and it's our goal to come back in the fall and say, this is how much progress we made on the Pitt County stop. So we're very excited about that. The last thing I'll say that is really a very unique part of the trail is it's all the artist work on our trail, brochures, interpretive signs, was done by Richard Wilson. And I'm sure a lot of you know who Richard Wilson is. He's an African-American artist who's internationally known. His works hang everywhere from movie sets to the White House when Barack Obama was there. So we're really happy to have him part of that, and it gives it kind of a local flavor for us. But I also just want to thank our advisory board members. The CVB kind of is the marketing arm and kind of the funding arm, but we can't do anything without our advisory board members. So I want to thank them and thank them for taking the time to come out as well. And a lot of these folks are the inspirations for some of the stops that we have. So I hope I didn't go past 10 minutes. I get excited, so I start talking about it. But any questions that I can help answer for you guys about the trail?
Yeah, so what's currently being proposed for the Brown Hill Cemetery?
So we're just looking at that information. There's actually two ways we could go with that. Now, there's a North Carolina Civil Rights Trail as well, and there may be some components that we can work into that. That's why we're working with the state representative from North Carolina and the African American Heritage Commission. But we also want to talk about some of the folks that are buried there. So we're doing research on who's buried there, what their lives were like, what contributions they made to Greenville, Pitt County. So we're in the informational stage for that. All right, other questions?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you to your advisory board members who came as well. Thank you.
Yes. Eastern Pine, North Carolina, do we need a break? Okay, Eastern Pines, North Carolina, Food Commercialization Center report. Keith Purvis and Mayor Steve Krill. Who's talking?
I'm talking.
Oh, go for it, man, go for it. You know I gotta stay awake, don't you?
Yeah. Do I have a, oh, yeah, there you go. One here. Is it in there? Okay. Thank you. Okay, got a quick PowerPoint to go through the Eastern North Carolina Food Commercialization Center.
All right.
I'm the project manager. It's a nonprofit 501c3. This is our board of directors. Keith Wheeler, Mayor Tripp is here with me. Thank you for coming, Mayor. Stacy Thomas is the industry expert. David Mayo with ECU, and Brad Hufford is the economic developer. The goal of the commercialization center is to launch a facility in Ayden, 24,000 square foot to commercialize the food industry and agriculture in Pitt County. Job creation will be 20 direct jobs and over 200 ancillary jobs. The 20 direct jobs is a one shift. Initially, we'll start with one shift. We hope to have 3 shifts by year 2 or 3. So that would be 60 direct jobs. We're completing a statewide network. The General Assembly did a study in 2014 and found that the state was lacking in value-added services for their farmers. A lot of our products were being grown and exported, and the value was being added in other states, and so there's an initiative to keep the value in the state of North Carolina. So we'll be working with other facilities, including the Food Processing and Innovation Lab in Kannapolis, which will be doing our research and development. Mainly, we're going to do 2 things. We're going to provide diversity and infrastructure for farmers to diversify their crops, where they can grow cotton, corn, tobacco historically. Now they can pivot into more of a food crop, squash, tomatoes, carrots, cauliflower even. We're looking at russet potatoes, broccoli, among other things. This is a concept. I'm going kind of quick. If you need me to slow down, just stop me.
You're doing good.
Okay. This is a concept of the facility that'll have processing, packaging, food manufacturing, shipping, receiving, coolers, freezers, food safety, training, and even some office space. The economic impact is estimated to be over $920 million over an 8-year period. This is the site, just off of Levi Drive, Anderson Trust Road, in the Worthington Industrial Park in Ayden. I don't know if you can see the number. One of the requests tonight is the county parcel 62663, which is the small little wooded lot underneath the kind of the finger of the blue. I guess you see what I'm talking about? The county owns that piece of property. It's 2.5 acres, and we would respectfully ask the county to donate that to our cause. We plan to make a food campus, a food commercialization center campus. The center itself only needs about 5 acres. With this lot, with the county's lot, and then lot, or parcel 61481, which is just, I guess that would be west of the county's lot. We have that lot under contract currently. So we will have about 55 acres in there to make the campus. We'll need 5. We'll have about 50 acres available for other companies to develop and expand in Pitt County. We're going to provide mainly 3 services: processing services, value-added services, and manufacturing services. That's it. Funding needs. We're going to be mainly funded by the General Assembly. We've received $4.5 million from the General Assembly already. That will construct Phase 1. We are applying for 6 different equipment grants, 3 with the USDA, 1 with Golden Leaf, 1 with Tobacco Trust Fund, and 1 with the Cannon Foundation. However, that does leave about a $500,000 to $1 million shortfall on our equipment funding for Phase 1. Phase 2 will be funded with an EDA grant this summer for construction. The equipment from Phase 2 will be funded from the operational revenue from Phase 1. Everybody with me? Any questions? Yeah. All right. We are partnering with East Carolina, NC State, the Department of Agriculture, and Pitt Community College. Most of the jobs that we created will be with Pitt Community College graduates. They're going to be manufacturing jobs, they're going to be warehouse jobs, they're going to be truck driving jobs, forklift operators, food safety, that type of thing. We will need some business. We will partner with the business school, ECU School, Miller School of Entrepreneurship, to help these companies with their business plans and marketing for commercialization. What's next? Raising awareness, and we need your support. So, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Is that the end of it?
That's the end of it.
Oh, okay.
Well,
now.
I mean, you heard the ask, though. Did you hear the ask? I want to make sure you heard the ask. And I do have a feasibility study here where these figures came from. If you can just give it to...
Sure, just give it to the clerk.
Thank you. That was independently done with Origin Farms out of Nebraska. They determined all of our economic impact numbers.
It's good that we see something from this project. We've been hearing about it for some time. Thank you so very much for coming.
Yeah,
Are there any questions? You see
Madam
how
Chair,
I'm
if you
moving
allow me
on?
just a few minutes, say thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for
yes,
your-
say thank you.
Thank you for your service to our county and our citizens, especially citizens in Southern Pitt, Ayden. You do a fabulous job, and you have helped our community of Ayden with economic development projects in the present and in the past, and it means a lot to us. And I know your service is greatly, greatly appreciated. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I'll also say that in the audience tonight is Kelly Andrews with Pitt County's Economic Development Division.
I don't
and
see her.
Kelly?
Oh.
And she's also available if you have any questions about the history of that parcel, and she has worked closely with this project as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Mr. Tripp. Mayor Tripp. Oh, please forgive me for the title. Okay. Thank you very much. We're moving on. Monthly financial report. Sam Croom.
Good evening, Chairwoman, Commissioners, Manager Gallagher. Tonight I bring you the January 2023 financial report for the general, solid waste, and EMS funds. We're 7 months into the fiscal year, or 58.3%. For the general fund, we have collected 70.7% of anticipated revenues and spent 53.4% of budgeted expenditures. Solid waste, we have collected 83.4% and spent 53.6%. EMS, we have collected 70.7% and spent 59.1%. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take any at this time.
Any questions of Mr. Crooms? We need a motion.
I so move that we accept.
Motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Holloman. Let's vote. Oh, we gotta wait for Mr. Commissioner.
He told me which way to vote.
Oh, he did? All right, okay. Thank you. We do that sometimes.
He got the first
Thank you so very much. Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Next item. Mr. Hill. January 23rd tax collections report.
Good evening, Chairwoman Perkins Williams, Commissioners, and Manager Gallagher. Tonight I bring to you the July 2023 collection report. The Pitt County fiscal year-to-date, July 1st through 2022 through January 31st, 2023, combined collection rate for real and personal property is 95.85%. The combined collection rate 1 year ago for real and personal property was 96.35%. Pitt County Tax Administration continues to pursue all outstanding taxes using the necessary remedies available through the North Carolina general statutes. If there's not any questions, it's my recommendation that the board approve the January 2023 collection report.
We need a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Nunley, second by Commissioner Huggins. All in favor, let's vote. Wait a minute, we gotta wait for Mr. Commissioner.
Yeah, he didn't tell me about that one.
He didn't tell you about it. We're on Mr. Hill's report, Mr. Commissioner McLaughlin. Thank you. Unanimous, Madam Clerk. We're moving on. Mr. Gentry.
Got my glasses.
Item number 9-7, EMS. This is a report only. Presentation. We appreciate Mr. James Rose for all his assistance at the computer.
He's blowing us up.
We got some help coming out.
Bring out the woman.
All right, here we go. Good evening, Chair Perkins Williams and Commissioners. I'm excited to report quickly on a project that was approved in this year's budget. We started in July trying to get this together, and it's taken until now to complete and get in service. But anyhow, the Chicago EMS peak time station was approved in the budget, as I said. And this is a picture of our mobile unit that was placed in front of Chicago Elementary School on Highway 43 South. If you can imagine or remember seeing the old structure of the first part or the original Chicago school, to the right of that building is where this is placed in that small parking lot. It is staffed 12 hours a day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And the crew stays there. And if you remember, we operate with AVL, which means we send the closest truck to wherever the call is for service. So what this allows us to do is to provide quicker response time to the citizens in southern Pitt County. where traditionally we've had to service that area with the Eastern Pines, Winterville, Ayden, or Grifton. But by placing this unit there for 12 hours a day, it takes those calls in that southern pit, it takes those and gives it to this Chicad truck to reduce that response time. But the greatest thing it's doing is it's leaving those trucks I just mentioned in their closer heavily populated areas such as Winterville, Ayden, and Grifton. By leaving those trucks in those areas, it keeps those response times down there also. We actually went into service September 1st. Blackjack Volunteer Fire Department allowed us to use space in their building to start because our mobile unit had not been placed yet. So we had a great partnership with Blackjack Volunteer Fire Department to allow us to staff there. And since we opened the unit at Chicad, we take the truck back to Blackjack because we don't have an enclosed structure to lock our truck in at night. So we will continue to leave our truck at Blackjack Fire Department for security purposes. As of February the 6th, we manned the Chicad location, and everything is complete there on site for our staff. And to date, we've had about 106, well, this was as of last Friday, so we probably have about 170 calls for service. Now, it sounds like a low volume for that truck, but keep in mind what it's accomplishing for the other areas of the county where we keep those trucks in service. So it's doing exactly as we had designed it. Just one more, and I'm finished with the Chicad portion, but I just wanted to tell you, thank you for the money that you appropriated back in September of '21, and we ordered 4 trucks. We put them in service in December of '22, so you kind of see that timeline, and where I came back this past July and said I need some more money to order some more trucks. Don't know when I'm going to get them, but anyhow, I wanted to let you know that it's taken quite a bit of time to get these trucks in service, manufactured because of the supply chain issues that we all hear about, everything, but it affects rescue trucks also. So these 4 trucks went to contracted squads in December. Winterville, Farmville, Belle Arthur, and Falkland received new trucks. We did place the order that you approved this past July for 8 more units. I have no idea when they'll be here. We got an email 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about assigning the units a 2024 VIN number. So that kind of gives us some idea, but we still don't know when we'll have them in service. So I'm teeing up as we march into budget time. I'm going to be asking for some more money for some more trucks, simply because I have to place the orders, and I don't know when I'll receive those trucks, but I can't order the trucks if I don't have the money. So that was the purpose of this slide, just to let you know, thank you, but we're not out of the woods yet. We do supply rescue trucks for all the squads in the county, whether it's a county unit or not. All contract squads, we provide those trucks and the equipment on those trucks, and it takes quite a bit of financial support to keep that going. And with that, thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Hope y'all don't have any questions.
No, ma'am.
Madam Manager?
Yes, thank you. For your manager's report this evening, a reminder of your next meeting dates, March 6th and March 20th at 6 p.m. in this same room. And then, who has waited patiently all evening, I'd like to introduce if Matthew Stevens would come forward.
Come forward, Mr. Stevens.
It is with great pleasure that I introduce to the Board of Commissioners your newest Cooperative Extension Director, Matthew Stevens, who joins us with a great amount of experience in horticulture and in the cooperative extension arena. And he started last Monday. He stayed with us for a week, so that's always a good sign.
But he's not smiling, though.
And so I just wanted to give him an opportunity to introduce himself to the board.
All right, well, thank you for having me, and I'm glad to be here in Pitt County. I'm looking forward to one of the shirts that Andrew had. So I've worked with Cooperative Extension for 17 years in Halifax County, Nash County, and now here in Pitt. Cooperative Extension is somewhat unique in terms of entities. We're a partnership between the county government system and our 2 land-grant universities in North Carolina. So we take information, research-based information that's developed at NC State and NCA&T State University, and we utilize our local resources to share that information with people in the counties that can benefit from information in our core focus areas of agriculture, food, youth development, and community development. So we utilize when cooperative extension is working well, we have a lot of people working together to generate the programs and the information that we share. And we utilize a lot of partnerships locally with county government, community organizations, and a network of volunteers to deliver our information and services. So I look forward to working here in Pitt County. If you ever have questions about what we do or who we are or how we can help, happy to answer any of those questions at any time. You can call, email, stop by the office, and we can have a talk.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We really look forward to partnering with you. Madam Chairwoman.
Welcome to the good ship Lollipop of Pitt County. Thank you so much, and we look forward to the work you're going to do and remain for a long time. We now have the legislative reports, and get myself out of the way. For all of you commissioners who did not go to NACO, I brought you a publication.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's no test.
That's my gift for you, and that's the end of my report.
Well,
Anybody, Ann?
I did have a long report for you all, but I will not give you that one tonight.
We appreciate that very much.
But I did bring a couple of calendars.
I think I've distributed one to all of those who didn't go to.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, all right. And I'll give them to community people.
Yep. Might be good for the students who are in there.
Yeah, I'm planning to take them to Operation Sunshine.
Commissioner Hogan. I'm sorry, Commissioner McLaughlin. I seem to be having problem calling your name tonight.
Well, I was late attending the conference due to emergency, but the conference was well put together. They talked about a lot of issues that certainly that we've talked about here on the county level, but it certainly was more especially the rural areas in reference to internet connectivity. I did attend some of those meetings, and housing seems to be one of the great concerns that I did investigate. And this has happened all across the nation. Housing problems with people not having adequate housing and rehabilitation of homes. So I think it was a very good meeting. I was very proud of it.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, we'll go back. Let me go back and say that this was an opportunity, and especially for the new commissioners, this was an opportunity for counties to engage with our federal partners in presenting our priorities. So this was it was as Commissioner McLaughlin said, it was really very informative. It was a good legislative conference, I think.
I do have a publication from Senator Tilley's office that I shall pass on to Mr. Rose. Anything else? Next item, Madam, you got two more things on it.
Yes, I do have three quick things for you. I know we're running long this evening. The third thing after the conference reports was to share the completion of People's Way sidewalk. You'll see a graphic on your screen. Was very pleased with Tim Corley's leadership on the completion of this project. As you come in People's Way, you will see handicap accessible sidewalks all the way from 5th Street down to Moy, and then connecting up through into the county office building so that anyone with a wheelchair can easily access our facilities. That was a project very well done and is now complete. Next item, I've received notification this week from Dwayne Cooper at the United Way of Pitt County, congratulating Pitt County government on being the recipient of the 2022 Spirit of North Carolina Award presented by the United Way of North Carolina. We are awarded under the category of building momentum and sustainability through engaged leadership or employee leaders. And the project that they recognized was our annual basket raffle to raise money for the United Way. And so you'll be hearing further about that. There is an event at Moffett Auditorium in Goldsboro on March 3rd, where our human resources staff will be present to accept that award. So very pleased to hear that and grateful to the United Way for recognizing our efforts in that regard. And then finally, a recognition of one of our own commissioners, Ann Floyd Huggins, just to advise the remainder of the board and the public that she was recognized for her service on the Trillium Health Governing Board at their last meeting. And to serve on the Trillium Health Governing Board, she had to serve on the underlying Trillium Health Advisory Board. And so they recognized her for her service, outstanding 1.5 years of service as a member of the Trillium Governing Board. So we thank Commissioner Huggins for that service as well.
Congratulations, Commissioner Huggins.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Item for consent.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept these items for consent.
Motion by Commissioner Ward that we accept the consent, a second by,
Yeah, second, yeah.
second by Commissioner Nunnery. All in favor? Work the clickers. Unanimous, Madam Clerk. Items for decision, contract with Central Carolina Holdings. Mr. John Demery.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you. Central Carolina Holdings provides our tire recycling and disposal and has so since the late 90s. We've had a good relationship with them. The only thing I would say is they're the only company in town to take care of our tires. We currently, the current 5-year contract that was approved in 2015 was extended 13 months and ended in 2021. We went on a month-to-month basis to try to find other options. Tim and myself and others went to Wilson to see a grinder. We went to the plant of Central Carolina Holdings. We looked at other options because the price of tire disposals just keeps increasing. There aren't any. Central Carolina Tire came back to me and said, you need to either sign a 5-year contract or we're going to charge you on a month-to-month basis their gate rate, and their gate rate's a whole lot higher than these numbers that are before us. So what I'm asking is, and the contract has been reviewed by staff and legal, and would like to get approval for a new 5-year contract with the new pricing. Pricing is $85 per ton for tires. Freight would cost us $416. We have to ship them to Cameron, North Carolina, which is about 145 miles away. And that's for the reason the high freight cost. There is a fuel surcharge, plus they've added a $15 environmental trip. I have no idea what that is, but that's on a lot of your contracts now. And with that, we do receive money from the state, although we're not getting as much funding as we did in the past. And it's going to probably cost us an additional, last year I think it was around $150,000. This year, approximately $175,000, although it was budgeted in my budget. I anticipated this, so it's not an additional cost. It's we just won't receive as much money as we have in the past. We also can and do apply for what they call an overrun grant. We were just approved There's 2 grants throughout the year that we can apply for. We were approved just recently, I think it was somewhere in $16,000 range. But with that, I'll ask for any questions. If not, if I could get your approval.
You are free to ask Mr. Demery
Make a
questions.
motion that we approve John Demery's request.
Motion by Commissioner Colson that we approve, second by Commissioner Smith. All in favor, we're clear.
Thank you.
Unanimous,
Thank you.
Madam Clerk. Next item.
The next item was brought back from your last meeting at the request of Commissioner Huggins and Commissioner Comments to consider a monetary award for the NACO Art Contest Award winners. Madam Chair.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Motion to deny.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Colson to deny, second by Commissioner Holland. All in favor?
Discussion.
Any discussions?
Yes.
Commissioner Huggins.
I would like to offer that we give a monetary donation to our winners. And I have here in the county newspaper our 3 winners from Chicard School, 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade. We have just 3 winners. And what I am proposing is that we as a county, and the theme says, I believe it is, Why I Love My County, or I Love My County Because. I believe that's the theme of all of the artwork. So, and we asked our school system to participate, and we had more schools to participate last year than we had this year. So, we just had 1 school, Chicard School, and we had 3 winners out of it. We had some honorable mention. Their artwork is erected downstairs before you get on the elevator, so you can see this artwork. So I would like, and then NACO give them a $50 gift certificate and a certificate, which we will present, I believe, at the next meeting. We will recognize them. They already received their certificates, I think, from NACO. Went directly to them this year. Last year, I believe it came to us and we presented them. So I think this is an opportunity to recognize our students and to promote education, which education is our #1 priority. So I don't think we have 3 winners, and if we give $25 to each one of those winners, I don't think that would break the county, and I think that would encourage the students, more students to participate, or more students in the county to recognize what we as county government, what we are all about. So my motion is that we give.
We're not ready for a motion. Are we ready for a motion?
You don't have one on the floor.
That's, yeah. And then you would vote on both of them, right?
If you make a substitute.
Mhm.
I'll let the commissioner speak. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, so if there was a substitute motion made and seconded, it would be voted on first. And if passed, could eradicate the first motion.
Commissioner McClellan.
Clear the deck.
It seems like, that came up the last time, as far as monetary, we'll be setting a president, might be setting a president, but I think that we ought to do something, maybe, Madam Manager, maybe a letter or something recognizing those individuals from the county, of their achievement, something that they can have to put, maybe a frame, they can have put up as something that's being recognized. if not monetary. I just think that there may be something in support of Ms. Huggins' recommendation that would maybe not put a precedent of given money.
And may I speak again? I don't see anything wrong with setting the precedent in this manner, because it's recognizing our students. And $25?
Might it grow into more than
All right.
$25 times 3?
We have Commissioner Ward who would like to speak, if you don't mind.
I didn't say that, but I think that this kind of falls in line with the certificates that we usually give, and all the students come up and they seem to be very happy about those, and that's what I'd like to see us continue doing, because we have a lot of groups that are doing things like this out there, students and citizens, and we do recognize them, but not with a monetary amount.
All right, anybody else want to say anything? I didn't hear a second anyway.
I'll second the motion. Substitute motion.
What are we voting on?
She made a motion, and he just seconded
The substitute motion, yes.
the substitute motion that we give money.
And
And I want you to know that this is a school issue, and the school has money, got art funds, and they give it. I think we will be open the floodgate if we vote for money to be handed out from the diocese of impromptu considerations beyond the budget. And when we do that, we're asking many people to open up the floodgate and come. We have people living in cars. We have people who are outdoors, and we haven't offered to give them anything. So let's consider this, and we are ready to vote.
What was the substitute motion?
The substitute motion that would give the money.
That we give $25 to.
And we
three.
got a book with it,
That was a mark. I did not press that.
What was Tom Colson's motion?
his was voted to deny.
Okay. And the
Yeah, for the
substitute?
very reasons that
Okay.
And she made a substitute
Okay.
motion to do that, so.
I got you.
Now, we gotta clear the motion,
did
because
clear
we
it.
were voting, let's clear the calendar now, clear.
All right, so I'm about to advance to the next screen, and that will be to vote on Commissioner Infwood Huggins' substitute motion.
And you vote. One for yes, you agree with Ann, and second, the one that you deny.
I did not hit that thing, and it shows
Okay.
me voting.
One is yes, that you support me, right? My motion.
Yes, the motion.
Tom Colson said he didn't hit it, so let's clear this.
I can edit it.
Okay, edit it then.
Or you can click it again, and it will be your last vote before he advances it. So you could change your vote 100 times until he advances the screen, isn't that correct?
Okay.
You click the number that you want.
I'll have to
Yes,
get the
to
motion.
support a substitute motion. Number 2, no, you do not support the substitute motion. Is
It's
that right?
incorrect. I voted
Is that right,
no.
Madam?
I would have voted no, but for whatever reason, the ghost on this
Doesn't
just,
Well, do you-
The motion fails for a lack of the number of votes
No.
required. Now we'll
He
vote
wants to
on,
change his.
now we, she didn't
I
get
did not
five.
vote yes.
It passes because his vote was not supported correctly.
Okay then, the motion failed. Now we are ready for
5 to 2, right?
Commissioner Colson motion. Let's vote. You vote 1 to support,
No.
5 to 3.
the vote required 5 in order to be approved.
That's correct.
So, number 1 is yes, you deny with Commissioner Colson. Am I right, Mr. Attorney? And no is that
What we're doing.
So now we are on the original.
the original motion
Which is to deny.
to deny.
The
Yes, sir.
request.
Thank you. Help me keep me straight, because I'm ready to go home.
to deny giving it $25.
Crazy, but that's what.
Did I vote? No, I didn't vote. No, there we go. Commissioner McLaughlin and Commissioner, and please, okay. 2, 4, 5, the motion passed to deny. Next.
Madam Chair, I would like to say something. I will contribute $25 to each one of those 3 winners.
That's your freedom.
Please let me.
I don't know.
That's your freedom, that's your choice. Thank you. Motion to, where we at now? Number 3, 11.3, appointment to the ECU Medical Health Board. Madam Trustee, Madam Manager.
Yes, it has been suggested that you appoint Dr. Michael McLaughlin to fill seat 19, Mr. Rob Jones to fill seat 12, and Mr. Philip Dixon, seat 13, to serve on the ECU Health Medical Center Board of Trustees.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner McLaughlin, second by Commissioner Nunley. Y'all working the clicker? Beth? Thank you.
Madam
Pass.
Attorney, would it be appropriate, can I say, make a motion to approve the next?
Yes, ma'am, if you want to do that.
Well, we usually do that with items for decision.
All right. Ms.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept items
recommendation.
3 through 7, the recommendations.
Okay. It has been moved by Commissioner Ward to accept 11.3 through 7, and second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor with the, accept the recommendations? Push the clicker for 1 and 2 for no. I pushed it. Man, I'm gonna hit it on the table.
You need to
I hit it, but it didn't.
All 3
Okay.
through 7 is accepted by the board. Next item. Comments, commissioners' comments.
No comment.
No comment, Commissioner McLaughlin, Holdeman. No comment for Holdeman and Nunley. Smith.
No comment.
No comment, Ms. Smith. McLaughlin.
No comment.
No comment, McLaughlin.
No.
Huggins, no comment. I don't make any, we need a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Holdeman, who seconds?
Second.
Second by Colson. All in favor, work your clickers.